Hi guys, Kamishiro Taishi the translator here. Today, let's talk about translating manga. Now, before I start, I've heard many people describing processes of their own, and I do not mean to dunk on any of that. I am no veteran myself, so this video is only meant to show how I do it in case someone's curious how it works, or if you're about to get started on a project and would appreciate having a source of reference. And second thing I want to clarify is there are multiple roles involved with translating a manga. At minimum, you would need a translator, an editor, and a letterer. You could be one person doing all three jobs, but that would not be ideal. On the other hand, if you have enough people, a project manager who oversees the schedule and provides a fresh pair of eyes to do a final review would help to increase the quality of the release by a lot. Now, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the source manga itself, the original. I personally like working off of a PDF. Usually, I would get all the pages of the manga as JPEGs. One thing to note here is that sometimes you get double page spreads. I like to combine those pages together, say, with Paint 3D, because that makes more sense for my translation. Some of these double page spreads would have one huge ass SFX, and it wouldn't make sense for me to translate them as two separate pages. After I do that, I combine everything into a single PDF using a PDF program. I personally use PDF Exchange Editor just because it's what I grew used to at my old workplace, but our requirements here aren't all that high, so I'm sure you can make do even with freeware. We only really need to add text for what we're doing, so Foxit would suffice. I'll leave links for both down in the description. So when I have the entire manga volume as one PDF, I go and number everything that will need to be translated. I select add, then just add the numbers right on. This is something specific to PDF Exchange Editor, but I learned that if you only click once, the field will extend all the way to the right. We don't want that because it will clog up the screen when we try to edit it again later, so lift the mouse click with the box size that you want. If you misnumbered something or want to adjust the spacing, there's edit. And that's all there is to that. So we have to number all the text there is. This means the bubbles, the SFX, and side text. I'm using Black Summoner as the example here, and the average Black Summoner volume has about 170 pages, give or take, so this process would take me around 4 hours. You can feel free to watch Netflix or a VTuber stream during the process. It might take you a bit longer, but you might as well enjoy it. So one thing about numbering is that sometimes you get really big SFX. I like to add a few more of the same number just to indicate to the letterer that the translation I did for this specific SFX is meant for all of these moon runes. Second, let's talk about the work folder. I like to keep everything neat and tidy in their own subfolders. As you can see here, I make folders for each chapter, one more folder for everything else, such as the cover pages, table of contents, afterward, and the original side story if the manga has it. Then I have one more folder to keep the original JPEGs, just in case somebody else in the team needs them. I don't know who that would be, and I don't really care, but hey, I'm all for making everything available for everybody. Third, let's talk about the workspace itself, where the translations go. I personally use Excel. Well, Google Sheets, but everybody calls it Excel. These are the columns I have. Let's go through them from left to right. As you can see, I have two columns titled page number. This is because the first column is for the page number in the combined PDF file for the entire volume. For this volume, chapter 1 begins on page 3, chapter 2 begins on page 41, and so on and so forth. The second column is for the page number within this chapter itself. This is useful to have because the page number of column 1 is going to be different for the letterer. At the very least, they're going to be counting the double page spreads as separate pages. So this second column is so that the translator and letterer can be on the same page when it comes to the final product. And the third column is the number that I numbered on the PDF on each page. On this blank Excel, I've set up 20 lines for each page, so I just delete the ones that I don't need. It's faster to delete than to add a different number of lines for each page. The fourth column is the speaker. The main options here are character names, SFX, and text. For some SFX, instead of putting SFX here, I put the name of the character doing the action that is causing the SFX. Now, this column is especially important if the editor and letterer don't know Japanese. Sometimes there are panels where the line in the bubble is talking about the illustrator character instead of being spoken by that character. And other times, there might be side text that is positioned in such a way that the speaker isn't very clear. Of course, the editor and letterer would have the context from the translated line itself, but let's not make them guess. Making their lives easy means making your own life easy, because it cuts down on corrections down the line. The fourth column is where I put my translations in. We're only going through the format of this workspace right now, so we can talk about the actual translating later. Next to it is a column for notes to the editor. This could be explanations for why you translated something a certain way, such as explaining what this SFX is supposed to be, invitations to the editor to suggest better wording, etc. Next to that is where the editor can suggest an edited version of the line or an alternative rewording, and they have their own column for notes. They might ask for clarification on something, so there's one final column for the translator. When everything is finalized, then it's copied to the final for delivery column. Because all manga is in uppercase, I use this add-on named Change Case to convert everything in one go. At the far end is a column in case the translator-editor team has something to tell the letterer. For example, please italicize this specific word. And that's about it for the workspace. I will include a link to a copy under the video. Feel free to copy and use it. Fourth, let's talk about translating. Now, because this video isn't about how to translate in general, I only have a few points. 1. Keep it short. If there's a way to reword a sentence so that it is shorter, do it. Just do it. The good thing about manga is it has illustrations, so your text doesn't have to carry the full burden of conveying everything that is happening. So, keep everything as short as possible. 2. When translating SFX, specify how many you want. Some of the SFX might be repeated in source. For example, here we have crows cowing. It goes, "Gah, gah, gah." So in that translation line, I would call X3. Fifth, let's talk about the workflow. I number the PDF. I translate. The editor edits. I go through the edits, accepting those that are fine and clarifying where necessary. Now by this point, there should only be a very limited number of lines that still need work, so I would get onto Discord with my editor and work them out directly through chat. We passed Excel off to the letterer. The letterer letters. I, the editor, and the project manager, if you have one, go over the draft, pointing out things we want the letterer to tweak. After all that, then it's done. Pretty simple, but it helps to clarify the order of when each person does their job. And well, there you have it. That's about the gist of how I do manga translation. I see that most videos on YouTube talking about how to translate manga focus more on the lettering side of things, such as cleaning and replacing text. So here is your insight into the translating side of things. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I am translating the Black Summoner manga, so if you're interested in an isekai series with a battle junkie protag, plenty of waifus, and lots of tsukumis, it's available through the J-Novel Club page, which includes links to Amazon, iBooks, and many other storefronts. Otherwise, I also did a previous video on translating in real time for VTubers, so go check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again.